Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Production Meeting Podcast, episode 11, with your host, Jess.
And Zavi. And today we have got some news to talk about, as well as some recently watched films and trailers. In today's video, mainly, we're not going to have a main topic point of discussion per se, but what we're going to be doing is talking about some of the films that we've recently watched a little bit more in depth and everything. But by all means, we'll know that the next episode we're planning a big topic to talk about, have a main head title, as well as there will definitely be a lot of stuff in that next episode. But for this episode, it's going to be a nice and cool one. So without further ado, Jess, would you like to get into your portion of the news?
Yes. So on today's news, this episode's news, recent film news, the first thing is Finn Wolfhard's directional debut looks remarkably like Stranger Things. So if you didn't know already, Finn Wolfhard is the actor who played Mike in Stranger Things. And obviously he became a massive part of the series. They've spent multiple years on this project. They're coming up to creating the last season. Season 5 will be the last. A lot to expect there. So yeah, it's really interesting that now he's deciding to take a directing path. The style he's gone for, the look of the film that he's made, called Hell of a Summer, it looks a lot like Stranger Things, with kids with torches and dark lighting. I think it's a very, very similar concept and look to Stranger Things, which is it's just so interesting that he's not copying, but kind of taking inspiration of a series that he acted in. I think it's quite a safe option he's gone for. He's not gone all out there and trying to do anything new. But good for him for giving another career path a go. So yeah, that's very interesting. Another piece of news that has just come out is that the A Quiet Place prequel has just started filming. This was confirmed by John Krasinski. And yeah, I think everybody is very much looking forward to what this prequel holds and the kind of things that they're going to include. So yeah, making a decision to create a prequel, I think, is quite interesting, and it'll be very insightful to kind of see what they do with a prequel, how much character development there is, and how much depth they go into when it comes to before the main event of the original film. But yeah, very exciting news, and I cannot wait for it to come out in the near future. Onto another piece of news which is quite interesting is the most pirated film of 2022. Now I know 2022 is over now, but that's kind of a piece of news that's been bounced around at the moment. So apparently Spider-Man No Way Home is the most pirated film. Now I'm not surprised at all, because considering the way things are going with streaming services, less people are watching TV, less people are sitting down with their families and physically watching a box set or buying DVDs. It's all now being streamed on Disney Plus, Prime, Netflix, all those big ones. And I'm not surprised that people are pirating recent films. So No Way Home being a very, very popular film, not surprised at all. It's interesting though that people are choosing to pirate rather than kind of find other ways to watch it. I think it's kind of sad when it comes to things coming out in the cinema, less people go to the cinema to watch it. But yeah, it's not exactly surprising news.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, I mean, personally, the only time I tried to pirate was a film was, I think, way back in the day was the first It released in 2017, because of the age, because obviously I was underage. But I personally do not pirate any films due to, well, just many things, how some websites can be dodgy. They ask for credit card information. And to be honest with you guys, I would never recommend it due to the fact that films are meant for the cinema. They're always meant for the big screen. And I can't, make that, point enough that, I mean, it's just good just to go and watch any film in the cinema. And I mean it because it's the experience. It's the experience, at the end of the day. And I mean, I know that pirating films has become very popular in the coming years, ever since the age of digital technology has been advancing. But I mean, I can list so many films that I've watched in the cinema that I know that I can't recreate that experience at home. Like, I know I can get close to it, and I understand that some people won't be able to buy a film ticket to go to the cinema or stuff. But yeah, with the age of streaming and digital media being released to platforms like streaming services, like, I don't mind those films being released on streaming platforms, but I always say that you can't beat the cinema experience. And expanding your point on that, Jess, the second most pirated film of 2022 was The Batman. And again, that film was a cinematic experience for me. I watched it 3 times in cinema, and I will remember day one being there at the center, of at the center, packed screening, and there was nothing like it. You really cannot recreate that experience. And I think for me, that's the reason why I go to films, is because the film will stick with you, but then, like, well, depending on how good the film is, that may stick with you, but the experience may do or may not. Like, that's the intriguing thing about being in cinemas. You're surrounded by darkness, you're surrounded by people. Yes, people can be annoying. People go on their phones, they can talk, they can mutter, which is very annoying. If you're that person, if you're one of those people, just don't do it. It's bloody boring. But yeah, no, I agree that you should not pirate films. If you're really desperate to see a film, and if you have a DVD player, go to a used DVD shop and just buy the DVD there or something. Find ways around it, as watching, pirating films, I think personally, is just really not the way to go. I think personally, as a film fan, like, I've heard many people say, "Oh, cinema's dying," this and that. But, like, I wasn't intrigued to watch Avatar 2, but I'm glad I did, because it was a visual, stunning experience. And I think that, so many people don't realize that. They really don't. And I can't emphasize that point enough, that just go to the cinema. If you're not old enough for the film, wait till it comes out on streaming, which won't be long, or wait to get it on DVD. Like, don't, as I said, don't risk pirating films, because I know there's maybe some reliable websites out there. I'm not going to say which ones they are, because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I wouldn't say them anyway. But there could be dodgy ones that take your credit card information. You just and then you could be scammed. Like, you just never know. Like, it's just a dodgy place. Like, with cinemas, you're guaranteed the film, nothing but the film. There you go. So yeah, do not pirate films. Do not do that.
Yes, it's not a good idea, but it's becoming more and more common, unfortunately. But it is not the way to go, and I'm hoping the world will realize that. And yeah, I'm hoping that streaming services don't continue to rise in cost. I hope that they kind of level out a bit to a cost that's affordable to everybody. So then pirating becomes less of a popular thing. And I'm hoping that more films go on to streaming services so they're available, rather than you having to buy the physical format, because not films don't stay in the cinema forever, as we all know. So I think having the physical copy is great, but it takes up space, like physical space. And it's also, you may not have the means to play that. So having a streaming service is there's like so many benefits to it, and you can watch things on the go. And
Yeah.
no, they're very good, but they're getting very expensive and people can't afford it. So then people are turning to a better way to watch a film online,
Yeah.
which is pirating. So I'm hoping things
Mm.
get a bit better when it comes to the streaming services, so less people turn
Yeah.
to pirating.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Like, yeah, there's some, I mean, first of all, there's some films I've watched in streaming that I just say to myself, why wasn't it on the big screen? Like, I remember one of my favorite films from last year, Prey, which is the Predator prequel film. I wish that was on the big screen, and as well as, like, yeah, that's a very fair and valid point. Like, there's only like some like films that I just recently released that go to streaming services. Like, you have to rent the film, which can be annoying. But then, yeah, it's annoying as a consumer, as in the film industry, you have so many corporate, companies and different studios, and that's where it comes into the effect of anything owned from Disney, Disney Plus. Paramount has their own streaming platform now, so I know that Paramount Plus would have got a lot of people going there to watch Top Gun Maverick. And then Amazon Prime, they do get the stuff out, but you do have to rent it. But there were some films that like you could watch that just came out. Like I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once on streaming on Amazon for free, but you have to be a Prime member. There's many ifs and buts everywhere, I think, with streaming and everything, and it is very frustrating. But yeah, I would definitely say that I love streaming for many reasons. Yes, you can watch films and shows and all your favorite stuff on the go, but I seriously think when it comes to films specifically, they should always be pushed towards the cinema release and things. And yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think it's a very fair and valid point that there's we're getting to a point when there's so many streaming services right now that you're just literally losing your brain. Like literally, it's crazy, and there's more and more being made as we, as we're talking. There's there's some exclusive ones that haven't made it to the UK yet. There's some that are not in other countries yet. Like it's incredibly messy, and I must say, as a consumer, it probably will get very overwhelming as time goes on. And I definitely think that, yeah, I would prefer personally if you're going to have a film in cinema, push it more for make the most out of all the screenings you have in cinema, and then release it. But like for example, HBO Max, which is Warner Brothers, as soon as they finished with the Batman, they had it in HBO Max in the USA. But for us, we don't have HBO Max in the UK, so then a lot of people would likely be pirating the Batman, which is clearly obvious because it was second most pirated film of 2022. So that's another thing. Like streaming services sometimes don't come out all at once in every single country. And that's also a very frustrating thing as a consumer. Like I remember when Disney Plus came out in the USA and The Mandalorian came out around the same time. And I remember a close friend of mine screen recorded the episodes for me and I was able to watch it. And then it was crazy to think that 6 months to, I don't know how long later it finally took for it to come to the UK. But even when it came to the UK, even though all the episodes were released in the USA by that point, they still did it weekly for the UK, which just makes no sense whatsoever, And yeah, I think that, streaming can be a little bit frustrating in these modern times, for sure.
Definitely.
Indeed. Well, yeah, that's my little rant of streaming stuff that's over and done with. But as I mentioned on the previous episode of the podcast, we did finally have James Gunn's announcement for his 10-year DC universe plan, with 10 movies and shows beginning 2025. So there's a lot to impact here. So first of all, we don't know what's going on, if this is a soft reboot or a full reboot for certain things. But as I said, there's been a lot that's been announced, but I'm only going to talk about a couple of things, very quickly. So before I get into his DCU news, so the DC Universe news, I'm going to be talking about the DC Elseworlds. So DC Elseworlds will be a brand new universe which will hold films like The Batman and Joker. So I really like that they've created their own universe and their own label for this, because that gives so many creators the opportunity to give more representation to the characters to put on the screen, but then also it won't be as confusing as it is for audience members, as I know that with everything that's happened with DC, with, you know, many people are saying, I thought Ben Affleck was Batman, yet they see Robert Pattinson on the screen, you know, and all this. And I think DC Elseworlds, the brand new label, will be a really good opportunity for, you know, actors as well, because some actors probably find it a little bit intimidating signing a contract for a Marvel film or a DC film because of how many projects and how much of their time they will have to dedicate towards the films. When you can have a higher class actor who, you know, could say, right, I can do a superhero film and this will be a guaranteed one and done. And this could be any rating, this could be any specific style. And I really personally like that. As I said, I love the Batman and Joker. They're some of my favorite films, and, you know, of all time, to be honest with you. As well as, it's nice to know that Robert Pattinson's Batman hasn't been touched from the DC universe, because there was some rumblings along those, you know, lines with if he is or not. But we also have an official title and release date for the Batman. And the second film in his, we don't know if it's a trilogy or, you know, we don't know if it will be a saga. We don't know what it will be, but it will be called The Batman Part 2, which will be released October 3rd, 2025. So really happy that we've got an official announcement with the release date and the title with this film. And you guys know how much I love the Batman. I'm incredibly excited for this film. Matt Reeves has said he's deep in writing the script right now, and I'm just glad that we get to see more of Robert Pattinson as Batman on the big screen. And then, as I mentioned, we do have Joker, which is also in the DC Elseworlds label, which has Joker A Folie à Deux, releasing October 5th or 4th of 2024. So just wanted to get that little announcement out of the way, but I'm really, really happy that after all of this, you know, all of this kerfuffle with Warner Brothers, DC, and everything that's happened, that the Batman universe and the Joker universe will not be touched, which I'm really happy about. Now for the DC films that have been announced. So there's 5 DC films. So the 5 films is The Authority. We have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Swamp Thing, The Brave and the Bold, and Superman Legacy. So I'm not going to talk about The Authority or Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, or Swamp Thing much. The 2 big things for me is Superman Legacy and The Brave and the Bold. So Superman Legacy is going to be the start of the brand new DCU slate, which will have an official release date of July 11th, 2025. And Superman Legacy will not be an origin story, but will focus on Clark's struggle to balance his superhero life with his human one. And the story will also explore Superman being a beacon of kindness in a world that believes kindness is old-fashioned. So James Gunn is currently writing the script as we speak. And as you know, Henry Cavill isn't in this film. We don't know who will be playing Superman. But I am intrigued. And I can understand what James Gunn meant with the previous Zack Snyder films. Like, I love Superman with Henry Cavill in the films, but his Superman films, I mean, like, you know, Batman vs Superman, Man of Steel, those films with Superman, they really didn't, you know, establish like hope or, you know, some stuff. And there were definitely some character choices that I can understand many people didn't like Superman being more dark, as Superman is meant to be the big boy Blue Scout. He's meant to be the beacon of hope and everything. So I do understand why, you know, they're going for a more uplifting, hopeful Superman film. That was my impression anyway, when they were currently, again, this is when, you know, Henry Cavill was back, that the second film will be more uplifting and hopeful, which I would have loved to see, by the way. But yeah, it's a new Superman film. We haven't had one for, by this point, it would be 12 years. Yeah, it would be 12 years since we've got a Superman film when this film finally comes out. So yeah, I'm interested, you know, and I would like to see, you know, a more colorful and brightful Superman. I think it can be very heartwarming. I think it can be very inspirational, as well as I think it can look visually very stunning and everything. So I am excited for that. Now, The Brave and the Bold will be the brand new Batman film in the DC universe. So we have Robert Pattinson in his own the Batman universe, and we have a DC universe Batman, and this will be a Batman and Robin story. So Robin hasn't been in a Batman film, a live action one, since, was it 1995, 1997 with Batman and Robin, which we all know what happened with that film. So a lot of respect for them bringing back Robin. And this Robin will be Damian Wayne. So Damian Wayne is the son of Bruce Wayne. And the Brave and the Bold will be, will show us Bruce discovering that Damian Wayne is his son, taught to be an assassin, and Bruce must raise Damian under his wing. And the Brave and the Bold will also feature other members of the Bat family. So that's also exciting. So the Bat family includes all the other members, such as Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl. So yeah, I'm intrigued and excited. I mean, it's a new Batman, and it's nice to have that. It's nice that we have a Batman who's by himself. I think that confirming that this film will be Batman and Robin based has confirmed that the Batman universe will not be touching, the character of Robin and stuff. So I'm excited and intrigued, And then there are 5 TV shows as well, which is Creature Commandos, Waller, Lanterns, which is also a good thing because there hasn't been a Green Lantern project since the 2009 Green Lantern film with Ryan Reynolds, which I think many of you guys know. That film wasn't great. So that's going to be really exciting, as we've got Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, and it will be a detective mystery, in space pretty much, which will be quite exciting. I'm, a little bit intrigued with that. Paradise Lost, so that will be a Wonder Woman prequel series, which will have a Game of Thrones style, focusing on the origin of Themyscira before Diana's time. So I'm intrigued with that because I think that I really did love the Themyscira, especially in Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you don't know who they are, they're pretty much the 300, or they're a bunch of warriors who are just females, but they're badasses. They're brutes, and I loved their representation in the Snyder films. But this doesn't confirm if Gal Gadot is still Wonder Woman or not. So that's another thing. That's with all of this, big announcements and things. They don't announce, if Jason Momoa is staying as Aquaman, then we don't know what's going on with Zachary Levi as Shazam or Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. So again, there's still a lot of questions to be answered, but only time will tell. But I'm kind of intrigued with Paradise Lost. And then we have Booster Gold, which will be a series focusing on a future tech superhero who will apparently go back in time to our current day to act like a superhero. So there are definitely some obscure series. Like for me, the obscure ones are Creature Commandos, as well as The Authority. And the Authority is pretty much going off the whole idea that the Authority will get stuff done, but not the way Superman does. So pretty much, being an anti-hero and going to extreme measures to, sort things out. So that gives me vibes of The Boys, but I'm intrigued and I'm excited for this universe. But I would say as well, at the same time, I am getting a little bit concerned of superhero fatigue, because for me, the Authority, with all this anti-hero stuff, we've already seen that with The Boys and seen that with Invincible, the show on Amazon. And what I do like about DC is that they will have different ratings for different films and shows, which is good. It's good to have some diversity, and they're beating Marvel to it with that. But there's also been some controversy with James Gunn. I think from Warner Brothers, there has been some rumors going along. But I think the reason why they're not happy with him is because he does interact a lot with people on Twitter, which can be quite controversial, as he could say some things that Warner Brothers really don't want him to. So there's a good balance of obscure as well as iconic characters and everything going on. But Jess, I'm going to ask you, and I know I just said a lot, and that's a lot to impact. But as a fan who's more of a Marvel fan and hasn't been introduced to DC, are you looking forward to maybe coming into this universe with some fresh films and feeling like you don't have to watch the originals, and that you can just come in and just start off fresh with all of these films and shows?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty intrigued in the future of DC, and I'm going to watch some DC films. So I'm glad there's kind of a fresh start coming. But then on the other hand, I'm the kind of person that likes to watch the original films. So the Batman films are one I'm very intrigued in. So I'll probably watch all of them before I watch any of the new stuff, just to kind of get a feel for DC, I guess. And then yeah, I guess I'll enjoy the new content. But no, I'm very intrigued in what DC holds, to be honest, because it's very different to Marvel. And I feel like Marvel's very much dying out a little bit because there's like their content's not as good. They use too much CGI, too many effects, or when they do use the right amount, they cock it up. So it doesn't feel as real as the DC universe does. Well, from what I've seen from photos and clips and things. But yeah, it's I don't know. Being a Marvel fan, I feel like I'm stepping in a completely different direction looking at DC, and it's gonna have a completely different feel. I mean, I have watched like a couple of DC Universe films, series, and stuff, but I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna take it. I'm a bit kind of skeptical, like I guess scared to kind of step in that direction purely because I don't know what to expect fully. When it comes to Batman specifically, I don't really know what to expect. I'm worried I'm not gonna like it, but Zavi said a lot. Zavi's told me a lot about
Oh,
Batman.
yeah, yeah.
Not
I mean,
not spoilers, but I mean,
no.
like just yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting things about Batman and what Batman entails. And I am very very excited to see it because I love cinematography and I've heard some very good things about the cinematography.
Are you talking about the Batman specifically with Robert Pattinson, I'm guessing?
Yes, but
The the
then
the the,
also
the new one,
generally
the
as
other
well,
ones, or just
the
the
other
other ones,
ones as
yeah.
well. Like yeah, like I am very intrigued, very excited. And
Mm,
I'm also intrigued in what the new stuff entails as well. Like
mm.
what's it going to be like? How different is it? Yeah, how different is it going to be? Like I want to be able to see the full picture rather than just concentrate on the newer stuff. I want to see everything or almost everything that DC has to offer, and kind of then build the picture that way. So then I've got a good idea about it, and I know what I'm kind of in for when it comes to the newer stuff as well, so I'm not completely going in blind. So yeah, I'd like to get a like full picture of what DC does generally, because when I went into Marvel, because I wasn't as a kid originally a Marvel fan or a DC fan. Actually, I was more kind of the Harry Potter, the Star Wars kind of fan, but not Marvel or DC. So when I did go and start to get into Marvel, I started from the beginning. I looked up the order, I watched it in release order and then in timeline order. And so yeah, it was interesting watching it that way, and it was nice to see the bigger picture rather than just watching the newer stuff. So I want to do the same for DC and do it justice, I guess, by watching a good amount of the older stuff as well as the newer stuff. So yeah, I guess that's my opinion on DC and what's to come.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I completely understand. Like before 2013, so 2013 was the establishment, or the established start of the DCEU, so the expanded universe. So that film, from Zack Snyder's, Man of Steel and things and everything. But yeah, everything before that, obviously, I know there's a lot to impact with the Christopher Reeve Superman films, the Batman film directed by Tim Burton, directed by Joel Schumacher, and then you have, as I mentioned, the Nolan films. There are it's a lot of miscellaneous stuff with DC. Like, to be honest with you, I'm gonna tell you straight up, like, one thing I do like about DC is the variety. So they've done many different films over the years of different representations of each characters played by different actors. So that's what I like about it. But the DC news aside, very excited for that. And highly anticipated, as well as going off of the new slate and how it will affect this year's films. James Gunn has announced that all the films coming out this year for DC, which is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, as well as The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman 2: The Lost Kingdom, will link in with the DC universe, the brand new one, in some way, shape, or form, with The Flash apparently resetting the entire timeline and resetting everything, which was expected. And we're meant to be getting a trailer for that next week. So be sure to check out the next episode, as we will be talking about that trailer. But that's the DC news over and done with, and that's the news segment over and done with. So now we are on to recently watched. So Jess, would you like to kick us off with the segment?
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about recently watched trailers, purely because I recently watched some very interesting trailers. Now, you might remember me saying earlier on in the episode that Finn Wolfhard is directed a film that seemed very similar to Stranger Things. Now, another trailer that I watched recently was actually also very much like Stranger Things, which I found quite funny. I think Stranger Things is very much an icon of the industry now, and a lot of people are drawing inspiration from it. It's very good. It's a very good series, but when it comes to like things being very similar, I feel like people in the industry need to be very, very careful about how similar it is, because it will get boring. It will get same old, and I feel like that's what Marvel has started doing, having a lot of things very same old, very boring, and I don't want the whole freaking film industry to make the same mistake. But it's looking like a trailer I watched recently was just, yeah, incredibly similar, and that was the trailer for The Boogeyman. A very, very exciting film coming up on June 2nd, so very soon. Can't wait to see it, purely because I love horror. And it's the kind of thing I do really like. The only problem I have is it seems to be pretty similar to The Babadook. I think that's what it was called. It was a film released quite a while ago, and it absolutely freaked the hell out of me. It was terrifying. I also found this trailer very stereotypical for a horror movie with a child in it. Like, there was the whole done before scene of the dad in the little girl's room checking out the closet to see if there was a monster in there, and then there's no monster, surprise, surprise, nothing there at all. And then the lights go out and the kid like sits up bolt upright, and there's a sound, and then she looks under the bed and she's holding this light. I think this is the only bit that I thought was very clever, was she's like hugging in bed this light that's like a ball, and it looks like the moon. I think that's what it's meant to look like, the moon, which is very cool. Very, very cool little addition to the lighting in there. It made her face light up quite a lot, which was quite nice. Maybe that means she's important in the story, I don't know. But also, yeah, it illuminates her face, and then when she leans over the end of her bed to look under the bed, she lets go of the light and it rolls under the bed and illuminates a monster. Who knew? Like, it's predictable as hell. But yeah, you could see it coming, but it was a very clever way of doing that. But it has been done before, unfortunately. There's been kids looking under the bed and then dropping their torch, and then there's a monster there. And yeah, it's a bit boring, a bit same old, like Marvel, as I said. But you know what? I'm intrigued still if it will be it will strive to be different in other elements of the film. It is from the mind of Stephen King, so very exciting. But we love Stephen King. Stephen King's amazing. He creates some incredible films. And also the mind of the producers of Stranger Things, which really points to why it's very similar to Stranger Things. But also I feel like the producers of Stranger Things maybe could have strived for something a bit different rather than just copying a project they've done before. Well, almost copying. The lighting is all very similar, and I want to give it a chance. I'm looking forward to it. I love films like this, but at the same time, is it too much like Stranger Things? I think it's very much seems like a mixture of the Babadook and Stranger Things. So I just wonder how similar it will be when I watch the whole thing. So yeah, June 2nd, very excited. But is it going to be a stereotypical horror movie? I don't know. We'll see what happens. I will give it a chance though and let you know in a future episode of the podcast. But the other trailer that I watched recently was Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. The Covenant, sorry. That is obviously directed by Guy Ritchie. The release date is in April this year. We don't have an exact date yet, as far as I'm concerned. I could have missed something, but yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's no specific date just yet in April. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Darcy Lynn. Very good actors. Can't wait to see Jake Gyllenhaal back at war, I guess. Was a news title. It was quite an interesting little news article online about how he's back into a war film. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one to watch. I watched the trailer. It was very personal, a lot of very kind of morbid stories going on, storylines. But it looked all right, like I think I'll give it a chance. It's not the kind of thing I'd usually watch because I'm kind of fed up of seeing war as a subject in films. It comes up quite a lot. But I mean, this seems pretty interesting. It seems very real, and there's quite a bit of a journey there for a few of the characters. Looks like there might be quite good character development overall, but obviously we don't know. We don't have that much information at the moment, just the trailer. But in the trailer, there seemed to be very good character development, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes with the theme of war and how touching it is as a whole. So yeah, they're the two trailers I've watched recently. I know, Xavi, you haven't watched any specific trailers recently, have you?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've seen a couple of Scream 6 TV spots, but I'm not going to talk about it or mention it too much, as I think now with Scream, again, with the horror franchise, it's very tough to balance on showing too much or too little. And there's definitely some stuff in that TV spots which are spoilerish. So I'm not going to talk about that for the sake of you as well as our audience. Mm-hmm. But again, still looking forward to that. And then I did watch one trailer, I think, but the reason why I'm not going to talk about it is because I'm not too intrigued. But I think there was a trailer or TV spot or a new featurette for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Yeah, again, guys, I mean, I've really gone off Marvel, to be completely honest with you. I'm not that interested. The red carpet was yesterday, so we do have some, rough ideas on what the film will be like and, reviews and stuff, early bird reviews. But yeah, I'm really just not looking forward to it. I'm not really too enthusiastic with it, and I'm not going to go out my way to watch it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've watched trailer wise, or to some degree at least.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for Scream 6 again. So excited for that. But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, like, do they need to make a film again with Ant-Man? I don't know. I love Ant-Man. Love Ant-Man,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's a bit over the top to do another one. I mean, we never know. It could be actually good, but I feel like there's so many like doors wide open for CGI mistakes, and it's just it could just go so wrong. So yeah, I'm worried for our eyes in that point of view. Like
Yeah,
worried for what we might see, but because Marvel is very
exactly.
dodgy at the moment with their CGI. But
And we'll be talking a bit about that later for something I recently
yes.
watched. Little tease, little tease.
Continue listening to hear about that. But yes, Abby, do you want to talk about what you've recently watched?
Yes, so we're going to talk about some good visual and special effects first of all, and it's quite funny because after we recorded the last episode, which we did talk about, and I recently watched, which was Avatar 2: The Way of Water, I rewatched the first Avatar a day later, and yeah, as I've said I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but if you're interested, go and check the last episode. But as I said, I had quite like a bizarre relationship with the Avatar franchise, and it felt somewhat nostalgic for me watching the first one again, as I have vivid memories watching it all the way back in 2009 in cinema, which is crazy to believe. And yeah, no, I loved it. I mean, it's visually phenomenal, and considering that these effects were in 2007 2009 era, it's just mind-blowing to me, to be completely honest with you. And obviously Avatar: The Way of Water, they do have better visual effects because obviously with modern technology and technology getting better, but again, for that time it was still very good. The story, again, it's a very simple premise, it's a very simple story, but I think it's really impactful, at least when it comes to James Cameron. Has a very he has a good, I would say, he knows how to really pull at the heartstrings when it comes to like the emotional beats, as both of these films are about with us looking after our world. The first one's about deforestation, second one about water, of course, in the oceans. And yeah, in this film, it's just really just so visually stunning. When Pandora lights up at night, you see all of these lovely, unique bugs just flying around. It's just so colorful, so cinematic, and it really engulfs you into this world. It really drags you in, and some of the scenes are just so cool. The motion capture work is incredible, and the action in it as well is very well filmed. I know Cameron is he's very good when it comes to his action set pieces, I would say. The story, as I mentioned, is a very simple story, but I would say because of the visuals for me, as well as because of the music, there's a lot of I don't know how to describe it, a lot of not tribal music, but a lot of that more spiritual music in the film. When it comes to the Navi and the Clang, as they are very spiritual people, and I would say it really does like elevate it to a new level, and it really does make it more emotional. So yeah, I loved it. I thought the pacing was brilliant and everything. So yeah, no, I was really happy to rewatch that. Now the next one we're gonna be talking about a little bit later, because me and Jess both watched that in cinema together.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, stay for that. Very, very exciting to talk about that film specifically. But the next one, as I just hinted a couple of minutes ago, I did watch Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which was recently released on Disney Plus. So if you're a Disney Plus, subscriber, then you can go and watch it. And I thought it was all right. And what I mean by that is a couple of things I will give the film credit for is a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, which I really think was really sincere, and really just kind of nice to see how his legacy will live on, as well as Angela Bassett did a good job. And obviously, as you guys know, she's got nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which I'll talk about more later towards the end of my opinion with the film. And then the villain, Namor, I thought he was a really good, solid villain. And I really liked the establishment. Like, this film, I thought had good pacing when it came to those scenes of, you understand the hero side and the villain side. I really did like that. I think it was, really kind of, it was well done compared to other Marvel films, I must say. making him a more relatable villain, which I like, because for me, that's one of the most important elements when it comes to villains, is making them relatable, because everyone's not all born, a villain. They're made into one.
Mm.
And yeah, other than that, I really wasn't super impressed with the film. And what I mean by that is that, first of all, as I mentioned in the previous episode, it's got nominated for Best Visual Effects. And I can just straight up say, how the hell did they get nominated for that? I'm sorry, but there was some shots in the film that really bothered me, where I think the specific example that's in the trailer, Namor's walking out the water in Wakanda, and the background's all blurred. And I don't know if that's a film choice or a visual, or like bad VFX, because the film didn't have that style for much. It doesn't use that shot or emphasize that, like there's a specific point you need to look at. And it looked so blurry and it looked very bizarre. And I'm not going to say who the Black Panther is in the film, but then there were some shots with her in the suit, and it looks so bad with Marvel. What pisses me off, they have the physical suits made, right? And they look good in them. Then there's some shots when they're clearly just cut in and pasted in. And when you see her head outside of the CGI Black Panther costume, I kid you not, it's like a 5-year-old photoshopped her face onto it. It's so bad. It's so obvious. And it's just I'm just saying, look, why? Like, come on, Marvel. Like, guys, I don't want you to think that I'm constantly dissing Marvel all the time. But the most frustrating thing for me is that I know they can do it. I've watched the majority of all the films building up to this point, and I know that they can have good CGI. And yeah, no, that really baffled me and really put me off. I was just saying to myself, oh gosh, it's so what is this? Like, what is this? But yeah, again, like I really do like the expansion of Wakanda, and there were some powerful scenes in there with Angela Bassett, which I really respected, and I can understand why people would like her to win supporting actress. But other than that, I mean, there was a good fight scene with the Black Panther and Namor, which I will give to the film. Fair play. Wish it was a little bit longer. Other than that, though, guys, to be completely honest with you, this film was probably to be honest with you, a 6 out of 10 for me. Probably like a 5.56. Other than Namor, the villain, and decent performance by Angela Bassett and a cool fight scene, there's nothing much that does it for me and everything. But yeah, and then the next film, which really surprised me, is Puss and Boots: The Last Wish. So this is the second Puss in Boots film. I remember even watching the first one in cinema. I forgot what it's called off the top of my head, but it's crazy. It's crazy. It was such a long time ago. But this film was actually very good. Like, seriously, I mean, for like a children film, it was such a fun film. I mean, it was very creative. It was very funny with the comedic timing, with Puss in Boots himself, as well as I saw a couple of people mention. They dropped the frame rate for some of the fight sequences, so it made it look really, really cool. It made it look a little bit like anime-esque, and it really made it so much vibrant, gave so much vibrance to the film. The message in the film is also, like, the messages, should I say, are very sincere and very truth. I mean, as a child, when you watch these films, you don't see them, but when you grow up and you see the messages finally. As well as this film has a badass villain, and it's the werewolf, Death, who was so well executed and used. I mean, it's crazy because for this film, they actually go into some psychological things with Puss in Boots himself, as well as there's other characters, and you get to see a little bit of why they're going after a certain thing or why they're making the choices they are. And I'm pretty sure I can see a couple of children being a little bit scared of Death himself now. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I love that. I mean, it's really cool to see, the creators, like really put in a villain that is well executed, and, the overall, the synopsis of the film, and just some of the scenes and some of the character development with Puss in Boots himself, I just thought was really, really good. So Yeah, I would give that probably a solid, maybe 7.58 out of 10. Seriously. I mean, it was really, really impressive. And I do hope, I forgot to mention this with Black Panther, but I'll go back to that in a second. I do hope it wins Best Picture, Puss and Boots, that is, for the best animated film at the Oscars. I haven't watched the other ones, but I hope so. And for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I don't know why I got nominated for visual effects, but we know Avatar: The Way of Water is going to likely win that. And then Angela Bassett, yes, I thought her performance was very good and very powerful for a Marvel film, and fair play to her for at least getting a Golden Globe and the recognition. But there's someone that we're going to mention, or I'm going to mention in just a second. But now, the next film we're going to talk about that me and Jess did watch was The Whale, directed by Darren Aronofsky, starring Brendan Fraser as well as Hong Chow. So, Jess, would you like to take this away?
Yeah, well, this was just an absolutely brilliant film. I've not seen a film this good since I saw Top Gun Maverick. Very different films, very, very different films, but two very good films. The Whale was just, it was so emotional, so personal. It got us all absolutely bawling, and I just it just shows you how much emotion can be captured by a camera, and is purely incredible, I have to say. The acting was on point. If you haven't seen it already, go and watch The Whale. You will, yeah, you'll have a good cry, and it's very sad, very, very sad.
Yes. Yeah, going into
Oh,
that, so the film is a 15, as
yes.
well as I am going to tell you straight up, there are some very, very hard hitting subjects and
Mm-hmm.
points throughout the film. So make sure that you read the synopsis and read reviews
Yeah.
because, you know, as I said, there's some very, very tough scenes to watch in this film and everything. So just wanted to quickly put that out there, but sorry to interrupt you there, Jess. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. No, yeah, it was just it was crazy as well, like how it actually got to us at different points. I went with a group of friends, including Zoe, and
Mhm.
it got us all in different points of the film. I got home, sat in my room, and went, "Oh my God, what just hit me?" I was in utter shock from like just how beautiful it was as a film, as a story. How beautiful the characters were, how well it was shot, the different point of views that were shown, even from people outside of the main few characters, outside of the family, like how much the emotion spread through different people. And it just hit me as soon as I got home. I absolutely bawled in my room, and I was sat there like, wow, I've not had a film affect me this much in a long time. I sit and think about it every so often, and I'm like, wow, how is it physically possible that a camera and a team of people are able to capture such real emotions so well with something that's not as good as the human eye, and hats off to the actors as well, because those performances were just absolutely mind blowing. What did you think, Zoe?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, yeah, I mean, you've hit a lot of good points on the head there, Jess. But yeah, I mean, going into this film, I knew it was going to be a very sad film. And
Mm,
another thing, which was also quite cool, is that we watched it 3 days before its initial release in the UK, which was really cool and
mm,
everything. So I was really happy with that just to get a screening. And, it's always nice to go to the film with your friends. But yeah, I mean, I knew this film was going to be very sad, very, very sad. And I thought that it was just incredible. What I loved about this film was just how brutal, but then how brutally honest it was when it came to the subject matter and when it comes to the dialogue. That there's definitely scenes with dialogue in that you say to yourself like, isn't that a bit a bit far? But you'd actually understand that with that character in that certain position, you would say, okay, yeah, that's understandable. And for me, it was just how they kept you so interested and invested in the film. Like this
Mm.
film only takes place in Charlie's apartment, played by Brendan Fraser. And the way they move the camera, making sure, they do keep you involved. They have different camera techniques. Like they do have some shots that are static. They have some that pull in, pull back, as well as they, pan around. And it's more the fact of like how they kept the pacing, which was very good.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, for me, as just mentioned, there were different points of the film that hit everyone. I think that, you know, maybe like three, I would like to say, at least I know, was it three out of the four of us, cried. I was probably the worst. I'm going to straight up say I'm a very emotional guy, and, films do impact me on many levels when it comes to if that's music or the certain subject or a certain shot. Like that's how much I really do love film, and I can't emphasize that enough. And for me, some of the hard hitting points was we saw this in the trailer, so it isn't a spoiler. But when Charlie says, "Who would want me to be a part of their life?" or when he says, "I need to know I've done one thing right in my life," those scenes, first of all, just hit me like a ton of bricks. It really, those are the scenes that first started the tears and the waterworks. And Brendan Fraser as Charlie, excuse my language, but fucking hell, he was incredible. I mean, prosthetic workers. So, like, a lot of people are saying, a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're hiding your performance under all these prosthetics." But for me, he balanced everything. Like when he said, I need to know I've done one thing right with my life. That's a very line you can easily underperform or overperform and be over
Mm.
dramatic and over the top. But he did
Definitely.
it. He did it in the sweet spot, and you really feel for the guy on so many levels. And the way throughout the film, he has this constant drive that you know he has this he's pursuing that his daughter's a good person, played by Sadie Sink, who, as you guys know, is in Stranger Things. Also, she did an incredible job, and you see the dynamic and you see how people can treat Charlie, but he does his best to see the good in people and to show his humanity. And it's just so beautiful, but also just so sad with how the film progresses. But yeah, guys, as I mentioned, there were some scenes in the film that for me, I mean, to a lot of people, it can link to many people with some of the subject matter, but it made me so sad. I mean, this is the saddest film I've ever watched. I can straight up say that. And it really did hit me. I mean, throughout the film, at least in the third act specifically, I did get more, I was crying more and more and everything. And then even on the train journey on the way back home, I was sitting still on the train for 30 minutes. I was seriously just blown away. And for me, that's saying something. Like this film was incredible. And I mean, it it really handles some subjects and it really makes you just sympathize for all of the characters. And they did a really clever thing with one character, which I'm not gonna mention too much that does spoil the film. There was a couple of scenes when they're setting this character up to do this or something, but then they actually, the outcome of it was actually something, you know, kind of beautiful. And I also like, yeah, with the scenes of Charlie and when he's eating, there was some tough scenes when you really, it's so tough to watch. I mean, I really can't describe like how much, you know, pain and sadness I felt for him and his character. And yeah, this film just does an amazing job of everything, to be honest with you. And just the way that Charlie views life, and again in the trailer, when he says people are amazing, and even though people haven't treated him well, he always sees the good in people. It really does tell you something. It really does, tell you that, people can be amazing. People do have these parts, have that a part of them. They can be amazing and they can be kind and they can be friendly and they can they can be whoever they want to be. And the way that Charlie just doesn't give up on that and everything, and what he, stands for is just truly heartwarming, but then also breaking at the same time, as I mentioned. But this film did release in 2022 for the USA. And I could say if it did come out in the UK for us around that time, it probably would have been second for me, like second or third best film or show of 2022. Um, because my favorite film was The Batman and I love The Boys. But The Whale for me was a film that, for me as a film, maker and who would love to, pursue this industry, when a film sticks with you so much like this film did, you knew it was a good film and you knew it meant something and you knew it was truly something incredible. And I would love to see it again. I would definitely watch it again. But do I know when that will be? No, because as I said, guys, if you are planning on watching it, I would recommend it. Then, even though it's a 15, like there's no like blood or guts or anything in this film, I would say for me, this film could possibly have been an 18 because of the subject matter and how it really does put you in this state of deep sadness and shock and, disbelief to some degree with, what you're seeing. And it was a really tough watch. So please take that in mind if you are looking to see the film, and make sure you are mentally in a good space to watch this, as this film will stick with you. But yeah, I think Brendan deserves to win the Oscar. I haven't watched Austin Butler as Elvis. Yes, I haven't, I can't judge his performance, but I think Brendan's comeback story is truly something incredible. And I think Hong Chow deserves to win Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah, and it definitely sends some very powerful messages. So when you do go and watch it, if you go and watch it, please, please, please take care of your mental health and enjoy the film, but go and watch it when you're in a good mental headspace, as Zavi said. And I'm sure no matter who you are, it will stick with you and you will think it is one of the most incredible movies you've ever watched. Purely just because of the emotion, the performance, the storyline, the way it was filmed, the singular location even plays with your emotion, and just everything about it. It was just incredible. There's not many words that could. It was just left you speechless and in shock. Is the best way to put it. But yeah,
exactly.
The Whale. What an absolutely incredible movie, I have to say.
Yeah. I agree. It was something. I mean, if there's any film that, tops that this year, I will be very surprised. I will be.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest with you, like we've already started the year and it's, boom, there you go. I mean, so much respect for Brendan and his return to Hollywood. And I think he's really made an impact. And I think after watching the film as well, seeing his acceptance speech for the Critics' Choice Award, it just hit me so much more after he said that. And he said, if you're like Charlie, then, walk to the light, and, really pursue the goodness in people. And just to see Brendan come back and just see how grateful he is. He just looks like such a friendly guy to me when, you've seen him at the awards or people at conventions meeting him. And I really wish the best for this guy, as I truly think that his performance was just incredible. So if you are going to watch this film, I do recommend to watch it with a friend or a family member or anyone you're close to, as this film is an incredibly tough watch. But other than that, and if you are, looking forward to The Whale and if you're excited for it, please let us know in the comment section down below, and we would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and if you have already seen The Whale, also let us know what you thought. Did it get you emotional? Did you bawl in the middle of the cinema? Or did you go home and then when you're sat alone, did you let out all the emotion then, just let us know in the comments, because it's interesting to see how the audience take in these kinds of films, because they are so hard hitting. But yeah, that's all for this episode. Hope you enjoyed listening to all the different things we mentioned. Remember to comment your thoughts in the comment section below. Press that subscribe button, smash that like button, and
smash that notification bell so you get notified every time we release a new video. Next episode will be about lightsabers and wands, so hope you're excited for that. There we go. So hope you guys all have a lovely rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and we will always catch you on the next time of the podcast. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening.